Walking Dead panel, you guys. First time. It's the first time. You guys are here for it. You're going to see familiar faces. You're going to see new faces. You're going to see footage. We're going to talk about fear. We're going to give you some insights. You guys already know that this particular apocalypse begins in Los Angeles, just a couple hours north of here. Don't say yeah like you want LA to go down first. Being natural is the population density. Of course that place would go down pretty fast. I'm now able to announce, if you guys didn't already know, you can watch Fear the Walking Dead. The premiere date is Sunday, August 23rd at 9 p.m. All right, Sunday, August 23rd at 9 p.m. In addition, a lot of people keep saying, like, are you going to do like a Fear the Talking Dead? And the answer is, well, I don't know. If you watch the first 6 episodes, then probably. If not, then no. But we are definitely going to do one Sunday, October 4th at 10 p.m. for the season finale, the first season finale of Fear the... And it's just going to be called Talking Dead. So there you go. That's that information. And now I want to bring out the executive producers, some of whom you may know, some of whom are new to you. So let's bring out co-creator, executive producer, and showrunner, Dave Erickson. He's first. Bring him out here. Also, executive producer, Dave Albert, coming back out. Come on, DA. Are you bringing the curtain shirt again? Executive producer, Galen Hurd is coming back out. And Mr. Greg Nicotero is also on this panel as well. And now, let's meet the cast. I'm so excited to be able to do this for the first time up here. You have no idea how exciting this is. You know, because I'm like SpongeBob energy most of the time. All right, the first person I'm going to bring out, she's playing the part of Madison. Her name is Kim Dickens. Playing the part of Travis, Cliff Curtis. As Nick Frank Delane. As Alicia Debenham Carey. As Liza Elizabeth Rodriguez. Playing Chris Lorenzo James Henry. As a character by the name of Daniel Salazar, Ruben Blades! And as Ophelia Salazar, Mercedes Mason! Ladies and gentlemen, your 2015 Fear the Walking Dead cast! All right, everyone take a seat. Let's get into this. Oh, your first panel, Dave Erickson. How are you feeling? Are you excited? Are you nervous? What's happening? Are you sweating? It's gonna be good.
It's just a little overwhelming.
It is a little overwhelming.
No, this is awesome.
It is awesome. Yeah, I know. There's people back as far as.
By the way, it's his first Comic-Con panel. Let's give it up for Dave Erickson. Come on.
Don't you screw this up, Dave. I'm kidding. So let's just a little bit for a second talk about why the decision to do the show, why to set it in LA, why is this an important story to tell?
I think it's a critical thing, man. I sat down with Robert the first time he brought this up. He was talking about doing a companion series to the show. And he's like, where are we going to set it? Where's it going to be? I said, well, here.
Don't give him shit. It's his first panel. He doesn't know he's got to put his face in the microphone.
He said, no, it was less. From the beginning, Robert wanted to have a show that was very distinct and different from the mothership, from the original. So instead of rural Georgia, we wanted a major metropolis, a major city, and be able to see the fall of that city. And the great thing about LA specifically is, it's a place of reinvention. It's a place where people go to forget their past, to come, to become something new. And that thematic created that sort of place to most of our characters. We have a lot of people who have done things they're not proud of, things that have been done to them, and sort of, it was a really great integration of location with character and with story.
So how much, because obviously as the audience, when we're watching Fear, we know, because it's all part of the same universe, we know what's coming up for these people ultimately. So how much does that factor in how you guys are presenting the show, or how you
It's
create it?
actually part of what's cool about the show. There's this great sense of tension and apprehension because the audience comes to it, you guys come to it knowing, what we have in store. And it's this process of watching our characters slowly, build this education and sort of slowly come to understand, because at first glance, they don't know what this is. They don't go to a place where they assume that it's, that these people are the undead. They think, they're sick. They think they're on something. And it's just, we essentially had an opportunity to look at that period of time when, Rick was in his coma, and explore what would have happened if, what happened during those 4 to 5 weeks. What went down and how did people experience that? How did people adjust to the apocalypse as it came down on them?
Because I saw the pilot and it's amazing. And what's great about it, without giving anything away, is that you can feel that it's part of the same universe, but it's not the same show. Totally, it's not the same show. It's not the same show at all. So you guys just didn't duplicate another Walking Dead.
No, I think it's very much. Tonally, it's incredibly different, and it's also, it's really more about, for our pilot in the first season, it's the shark you don't see. It's sort of building to a place where we don't get to full apocalypse until later in the season. And that's not to say we don't have walkers, we do. It's not to say we don't have, action and drive, but essentially it starts as a family drama, and we filter the apocalypse through that, And I think what it did was afford us the opportunity to really anchor the show in this family that we're dealing with, in these characters, and then see, how the apocalypse crushes them.
Yeah, because that's ultimately the magic of the story of Walking Dead. Is like this environment. It's just watching how this environment affects otherwise normal people, and just seeing how it pushes and pulls people and tears them apart.
Yeah, it's also the ability to actually watch the fall. I mean, by the end of the pilot in the original show, we get to Atlanta. We get to see what happened to Atlanta. We actually get to show, the process by which the city goes down.
Yeah, because Rick had to go into that coma. He totally missed all of it. So is this timeline-wise, where does this series fall in relation to that one?
It's loosely during Rick's coma. It's loosely, I think Robert's feeling was, Rick was out for 4 to 5 weeks, and this is, 2, 3, 4 weeks of that time. So even when, eventually we get to the end of the season, we're still not necessarily completely caught up.
Right.
We wouldn't end our finale and then cut to Atlanta and Rick, and Rick coming too. But yeah, there was a lot of elements that I think Robert felt, and then as he brought me into it, I felt there were things to explore that we hadn't had a chance to see because of the coma.
So let's just talk to the cast and meet everyone and figure out who they are and get in their heads. Kim, let's start with you. By the way, I've been such a huge fan of yours. I just told you backstage how much I love Deadwood. You're amazing at. I mean, Sons of Anarchy, House of Cards. Like, you've done so many amazing shows, and so many amazing movies. So how does this role as Madison different, and what can you say about her? Just give us something.
Well, it's a new genre for me, And in fact, when I first heard about it, I was asked if I wanted to audition for it, and I thought, I don't know if I fit into that. I can't imagine. And then I read the script, and I thought it was just the most amazing character. So, I was in.
Are you? Did you talk to any of the other cast at all? Did anyone give you advice like, okay, when you're doing a horror show, if you're doing a zombie show, that it is a little emotionally jarring, this stuff?
Nope, I had no warning.
So how's it been?
Well, it's been really exhausting, and at the same time, the most fun I've ever had. It's fantastic. In the beginning, I had a few nightmares because I think I was trying to process what I was going through in the day, my subconscious was trying to work it out, but it's been great. It's been a lot of fun.
Cliff, let's talk about Travis a little bit. What can you say? What's his relationship to Madison and?
Travis. I love Travis. He's an optimist. He's a fixer. He likes to fix things. He's in love with the character Madison. He's got a beautiful ex-wife with Elizabeth, with Liza. Her 2 teenage sons. I don't know if anyone here's got teenagers in their lives, and my own estranged son. So it's a very rich life he's living, and he's sort of a high school teacher, an English teacher. So there's just like me.
And same question for you. Were you emotionally prepared for what this show would be? And Because obviously I know when they ask you to sign it, you're like, oh, okay, well, it's a Walking Dead show, there's an apocalypse, sure. But actually, like, day to day, kind of dealing with it as a performer, what's it been feeling like?
No, I like to take my work a day at a time, and I had good talks with Gail Ann and with Dave, and it was just really a matter of them saying, we want to focus on this family and their relationships and what's happening in their lives. And the other sort of outbreak stuff, it's going to be in somewhere over there, at least. And when I read the script, I really liked the people. I liked the humanity of the characters, and I sort of thought, well, what's great is that they're completely unprepared. I don't think my character has any apparent sort of skills. You know, he's not like a cop, or he's got no sort of like action figure type sort of skills that say he'd be handy in that situation. So I think the setup's really strong, and I was intrigued.
Yeah. Frank, down there, what can you, because this is a really interesting panel because no one knows your guys' characters yet. So I can't really ask you anything too in depth other than who are you and how do you fit in. So what can you tell us about Nick, Frank?
Well, it's her son, her brother, and I don't know really that much because it's still, we've only shot the first episode, so I don't know too much about him.
Well, you're in the same boat with the rest of us, who also don't know. But how's it been for you so far working on a series, especially one like this?
Yeah, amazing. It's been hard work. There's a lot of, you shoot a lot of stuff, so it's been good.
What are they allowed to say about their characters?
They're allowed to say nothing.
Anything?
No, the thing, Frank's character, Nick, is, you know, he is the eldest teenage son of Madison. You know, his dad's passed away some time ago, and, you know, he's in something of a bad way when we first meet him, and it's, what's interesting about, I mean, all the characters, I think Nick in particular, it's the question of, you know, what worked in the old world and what didn't work in the old world, the things about him that make it difficult for him to function, may or may not serve him well when the apocalypse comes. You know, and in terms of this question of, you know, reinvention, the ability to sort of build when the shit hits the fan, it's like that's what's intriguing to me about, I mean, all the characters, but specifically, I mean, you know, Nick has, he's one of the first ones who gets a sense of what's going on. So he's in some ways kind of, you know, a bit of a prophet of the apocalypse. But yeah.
I just wanted to hit something that Cliff said, 'cause I think it's actually really relevant. Is that, you know, in trying to envision what a companion series would look like, it was trying to figure out not just how from a geographic perspective how are things different, but, you know, Rick in The Walking Dead is such an alpha, not an obvious leader, but he's a sheriff. He's trained in weapons. He has a real sort of clean sense of right and wrong, right? It's easy to envision that guy as a leader, right? So what was great when Robert and Dave sort of were trying to come up with the characters, they were really trying to figure out, okay, well, what is a way? What if there's not such an obvious leader? What if we have someone who's an English teacher, like he's an English teacher, and she's a guidance counselor. And they have real family problems. And they're starting already. They're having trouble sort of just dealing with the day-to-day of living, right? They don't have everything dialed in, right? Their sort of lives are coming apart a little bit. It seems right now, like as the world is good, and then you add on top of that the zombie apocalypse. And what was great is, you know, like if you look on the mothership, you look at the way that sort of, you know, Carol was transformed from this, you know, victim of spousal abuse, and she's become like, a real badass. You know, I think we're going to see who here goes from sort of being from a coal becomes a diamond, and who's just going to crumble into dust. And I think what's been great about watching the actors bring this to life is that they've really sort of inhabited these roles and sort of filled out those nuances and really made that sort of rich and whole. But I think we're going to see some really interesting people that you expect to be leaders might not necessarily make it, and people who you expect that might crumble and fall, they might surprise you as well.
I actually, you know, I think one of the most interesting things about the two shows, there's really no comparison. You can't really compare the two shows because they're drastically different. You know, The Walking Dead has these bigger than life characters. You know, Rick's bigger than life and Daryl's bigger than life. What's great about this show is they're everyday people. They're people that you wanna experience with them, like what they would do during a natural disaster. Gail and I were talking this morning about like the Northridge earthquake or something, and like what people do when they're faced with those kinds of situations. And I think the one thing that the two shows do share is the idea that the circumstances change people, and what they change those people into is what's fascinating, to watch those characters change and those people change. And Cliff and I were talking this morning just about being a high school teacher and not necessarily being equipped with, he doesn't have a gun, he doesn't have a sword. It's what he's equipped with to deal with that. And, you watch the news and you see these things every day, and then a couple days later, it's not relevant in the news anymore. Something else comes right on the heels of it. But knowing that society could be unraveling underneath each of these characters as it's happening, and then seeing how they change, I think is what really is at the heart of the show.
Well, that's sort of what we're on the precipice of every single day. It's like, oh, there's an Ebola outbreak. It'll probably be fine. And I would imagine
Kardashian right after that, like, oh yeah, Ebola.
Oh, it's fine. Someone will fix that. And so, in this type of a situation, I'm sure shit starts to go down, and most people are like, oh, they'll figure it out. And then watching people start to realize, oh, no one's figuring this out.
And there is no figuring it out.
And there's no figuring it out.
That's actually, part of the fun initially is the people who start to understand what's going on, the people who don't get it, and that there's quite a fracture between the people who start to get up to speed and are ready and begin to protect themselves, and the people that don't. And it's interesting watching that process and watching, just the education of people coming to realize, okay, this isn't just a virus. This is something that's changed. It's going across the city, across the state, the country, but it's something that's, it's going to change the world.
But you would react. I mean, all of us here would react the way that our characters react. I mean, you guys are ahead, you've read the comic books, you've watched The Walking Dead, but we would all want to believe this doesn't make sense. They'll figure it out, it'll go away, it'll pass, just like, SARS and Ebola. And you want to believe, because we live in a world of instant sensational media, that they're blowing it out of proportion. But what if they're not?
Right.
And that's what we're with.
Well, I'll just be in this room and I'm looking back there and I go, how long if there was an outbreak here? If it started back there, 7 minutes to get to here, by the way? You what? There's doors right there, yeah, but not for those people. No, oh yeah, screw everyone else as long as you're okay, right? That's all.
So these guys will be fine down there.
Yeah, you guys will be okay, so you're not sweating, but everyone in the middle there. Greg, even the walkers are a little bit more signature to this show, so that it's not, because it's earlier in the process. Yeah. So can you talk a little bit about the process of crafting the look of the walkers?
Well, in the first episode of The Walking Dead, it had been, we've been talking a lot about Rick being in the coma and everything. This is much more like somebody that you are sitting next to and you look at them and they don't really look quite well. They just look a little sickly. Your instinct isn't going to be, oh, I should shoot that guy in the head. You're like, oh, they probably don't feel well. Or, you generally would cross the street if you saw somebody that didn't look quite right. You might be like, oh, they don't. I'd stay away from that person. But for us, we still have a couple of our signature moments in the first couple episodes, but it's not necessarily the decomposition that we do in The Walking Dead, because they haven't been walking around for a year and a half, 2 years. It's much more this character who you saw in the trailer. She's freshly turned. There's a lot of moments that are similar to Emma Bell's transformation in season 1 of The Walking Dead, where you still feel the humanity there. You still see a little bit of life in their eyes, so you're not necessarily afraid of them. You don't feel the aggression or the violence.
But they still want to eat you.
Yes, exactly.
I just want to keep going down the line and talk to Alicia for a sec. So, what can you tell us about your character, who is also named Alicia?
Yeah.
Anything you can say about your relationship to Nick and your relationship to Madison?
Sure. So Alicia is Madison's daughter, and sister of Nick. And she's a high achiever. She's really great at school with kind of frustrating needs, and she's got a lot of ambition. And I think that's probably due to because she's in such a broken family, household. She's lost her dad, brothers away, addicted to drugs. So she's had to become very self-sufficient and independent. independent. So she's just ready to like get out of LA and do her own thing and become someone. And I think that's why it's so heartbreaking because, you know, she's got a lot to lose because she has so much, you know, she's got somewhere she really wants to go. And, she's got really the feathers to fall in a way.
So with the original series, you know, there are adults and then there's Carl.
Yeah.
And so as long as with Carl, you know, you kind of go, well, as a kid, he's really had to, he does what kids do, which is hyper adapt to the world. But you guys are young adults, so you're sort of in between. You're not kids, but you're not fully formed adults yet. So how do you think that would affect someone in your position?
Totally. I mean, it's going to screw up your hormones even more, probably. Well, that's quick development too fast. Yeah, no, it's a really amazing dynamic to explore. And I think it is really interesting because at the end of the day, she still is, you know, a 17-year-old girl. And so there's some really lovely scenes that we shot where it's like, you know, the world's falling apart and she's still having kind of a moment over something a little bit, you know, trivial.
Right.
Because, you know, and it is, you try and justify everything. You want to try and, like, the world's still okay, but you know, you still have those teenager, I guess, little things. So, yeah, no, I think that's going to be, and it's a defining moment too for those teenage characters. That's going to really define kind of where they're going to go. They've got a lot to choose in that moment.
Who do you think's better equipped in an apocalypse like this? A child or a teenager or an adult who's very set in their ways?
That's a really good question.
I've done this before.
Could tell.
Maybe someday there might be a show and you all will be on my couch and we'll be talking about it in front of a live camera.
Yeah, I think you've got two ways to go as a teenager. You know, it could destroy you, or it can, like, you know, it will govern you. It'll change who you are. So, I think that's going to be a really interesting thing to discover with these characters, especially. We're gonna. I mean, she's going to go somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, it might be very dark.
Well, yeah, a lot of times when I'm doing my live shows, I'll ask people in front, like, well, what do you do in life? And then I'd like to determine how well they would survive in a zombie apocalypse. And of course, because it's my show, most people are like, I'm a programmer. I'm like, you're dead, you know. So one guy might go like, oh, you know, I work construction. I'm like, you are now the president of the apocalypse. So, I mean, it's a question. How well do you think you guys would do in the apocalypse? You think you guys would do okay? You would die. Yeah, me too. We would all.
I would be great. I'll just make myself up as a zombie and then I'd be fine. So everybody will show up at my shop the day the zombie outbreak happens. I'll make you all up as zombies and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
I just want to say, if the apocalypse happens, I'm going to Gail's house. She is so ready. She's already prepared. 100%.
All right. What's in your zombie preparedness kit?
3 years of food, water.
I did the same thing. I swear to God, after I started working on this show, I went to like a couple survivalist websites.
Anybody where I live.
I have like a basement that's just full of like boxes of water and tabs to make water
survivalists
drinkable.
have nothing on me.
Yeah, I don't know how to tie knots or make fire, so I die, but I have a lot of water. So I could be panicking for a month before I died of starvation. Elizabeth Rodriguez, what can you tell us about Liza?
I think they're fans of another show. I can tell you that she is Travis's ex-wife and the mother of Chris, played by Lorenzo. They were married for about 12 years and they've been separated, divorced.
13 years.
Oh, sorry. I forget.
This is why the marriage didn't work.
I forget these things. We've been divorced for 3, separated for 3. And she's very protective of Chris. And she is going to nursing school, which plays a very important role in Outbreak.
You would survive.
President.
And she sort of had to put her life on hold in her dreams. And so now she's sort of burning at the candle on both ends. And so she sort of doesn't take any BS. I think she's really
really nurturing and kind of comes into this world, into the Clark house. So then there's 2 adult women and 3 children, and my character wasn't supposed to be Latina. It's really important stuff.
Yeah.
So that's exciting, especially because there's a whole other storyline that is that. And so I think that was really exciting for me, that I'm just playing a woman.
Nice.
That's all I got. Sorry.
I think I do like the dynamic. I mean, I can almost see it. It's almost a sitcom too. It's like your ex moves in with you and their family during the apocalypse.
Yeah.
Like, oh shit.
It would be a sitcom if there wasn't an apocalypse.
If there wasn't an apocalypse and people's faces
yeah,
being eaten
yeah,
off, yeah.
Yeah.
Lorenzo, how old is Chris in the show?
16.
He's 16 years old.
And I'm mute.
I don't talk.
I'm very protective of him.
You are.
Want to talk to me, you have to go to Elizabeth.
So what? How quickly did you guys have to sort of get to know each other and form your off-camera relationships to basically, approximate the fact that you've been a family for a while in this horrible situation?
I literally met everyone on the day of the table read in Vancouver. But it was, we bonded very quickly. It was, we all talked to each other and hung out, talked about our character backgrounds and everything. So we all really got along with each other, which is great.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you guys have some concept of this, but if this show works out, I mean, you're going to be you're going to be family. Like, it's the ride that I'm so excited that you might be standing on the edge of right now. You probably shouldn't think about it too much because you crap your pants, but having watched what happened with Walking Dead and how much that became a part of people's lives and seeing how close they became to each other, I mean, are you ready for what could potentially be a very wonderful, intense, a lot of responsibility?
Is that directed to me?
Yeah. Yeah, you're a man now. It's time to grow up.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the best things about working on the show is that I couldn't be more grateful to have such an amazing cast. I mean, I look up to Cliff and Kim, and Frank's like my brother. I mean, Alicia, everyone is like family. It's been such an amazing experience.
I like to walk a lot in New York City, and this is gonna get in the way of my freedom.
Sorry,
In LA, it's a little easier, you're in the
No
car.
one walks in LA.
Yeah, you do not walk in Los Angeles. Even if it's like a block, you get in your car and you drive
I might
a block.
have to invest in some wigs.
Yeah. LA is not a pedestrian. People are walking. You're like, what happened? Like, it's so strange to see people walking around.
Yeah.
They're probably just walking next door, but that's as far as you'd want to go.
Yeah. Or on Runyon Canyon.
Or on Runyon Canyon. Yeah. People on the Runyon Canyon are a little arty.
Yeah.
This is totally unrelated. This is why I don't go to Runyon
Sorry.
Canyon. I was walking up Runyon Canyon and these 2 obnoxious people were walking down, and all I heard of their conversation was, my friend Emily totally levitated. And I'm like, I'm never coming back to this. I'm never coming to Runyon Canyon.
That was me, I'm sorry.
I would love to talk to Ruben Blades, who I'm so excited is on the show. And I don't think it had been announced before. Your character is Daniel Salazar, and we saw a little piece of him in the trailer, but how did you get involved with the show, and what does it mean to you, and what can you tell us about Daniel?
It was a wonderful. I always say that the first motivation for an actor to work is unemployment. And this role, I felt good about accepting it because it's a very complex character. Daniel Salazar is a very complex character. And that also joined to the fact that I really like science fiction were 2 deciding factors. I mean, this is a really interesting character. He's a barber. He's a man that has come from a different environment, different society, to start a life elsewhere with his family, daughter, and Patricia Espíndola, who's playing my wife, is an excellent actress, a Mexican actress. And events occur that force him to revisit a past that he was trying to get away from. So it's a really interesting role, and it's a great group of people. And I'm a musician, basically, and I've been very lucky in that I've been able to work in film and television. In the past, I did Predator 2 with Danny Glover, and then I did an episode of The X-Files, which I really wanted to do. I hounded Chris Carter until he gave me a role, and I said, please don't kill me, and he did.
You're doing more of those. You should talk to him again.
I know. I did speak to David in Vancouver, and so it's a great opportunity. I'm very, very grateful for the opportunity and to be able to work with these great group of people. Really, very, very lucky, I feel.
Great. Well, I know everyone's excited to have you on the show. Mercedes, I also didn't think it's been announced that your character is Ophelia Salazar. So who is she?
So I played Daniel's daughter, and was born and raised in the States to immigrant parents, so I've got a lot of the wanting to improve myself and wanting to make sure that I succeed. And Ophelia is quite protective of her parents. She definitely wants to make sure that they're taken care of and that there's no language barrier because her mother is not quite fluent in English, so she's very protective. And then when the proverbial shit hits the fan, Ophelia, who thinks she knows a lot, is quite naive and realizes that maybe she can rely on her parents far more than she thought. So there's a huge dynamic and a huge change in what happens, and she has to realize, like everybody else, what she's capable of and who she can rely on and what family really means. And also, speaking of which, really importantly, Gail, I have to find out where you live then, because if there's an apocalypse, I'm going to starve in 6 hours. I have nothing in my cupboards.